We'll call the meeting to order. Commissioner Holloway says he'd be here, so we'll mark her present when she goes up. We'll have a pledge of allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have any public comment about any issues or any agenda amendments? If not, we'll take a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Dr. Saw?
Yes?
I'd like the check registry to be pulled from the consent agenda, please.
Check registry?
I'd like for it to, if you would advise staff to take and remove it on a monthly basis from that location. It should be in the agenda and reviewed and looked at each meeting.
We reject that amendment.
No, that's fine.
Chair Saul, I would add the payroll. I think what Commissioner Sterling was referring to is the accounts payable check line, and I would add my voice to that.
That's correct.
Accounts payable or accounts receivable?
We never even get to see accounts receivable. We'll have to be satisfied with accounts payable, I guess.
We want that removed from the agenda.
From the consent agenda,
agenda.
so we would discuss it in the meeting.
Action item.
Thank you very much.
Any objection?
It's appreciated.
No. Which specific item is it as far as the label CA1, CA2? Is that what you're asking for?
2.
Thank you.
I'm just curious, what's the purpose?
What's the purpose?
Where else are you going to determine where the money's coming and going at, sir?
You know, there's a report.
Well, if you object to it, then you needed to object to it.
No, I'm just asking the question.
I just told you. Any good businessman would need to know and inquire on a monthly basis, under the circumstances, where the money comes and where does it go.
Based on your business experience?
Whatever. If you object to it, then I suggest that you object to it.
I just asked the question, that's all.
Yeah, that's all.
Any objection?
I'm sorry, Chair Sella.
Yes.
I don't know if this is the time for it or not, but we still have been awaiting relative to the accounts paid for the invoices from Phillips Law, and we have not received those. So that's been outstanding for a couple of months now. I think it's a part of the same issue.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I would like to know if the general manager would care to respond to that. My understanding was that the documents that are appropriate for the members to see have been already distributed. Am I correct or am I incorrect?
We provided the Phillips Law invoices through December of 2012. There was a summary there, and I believe the total amount that we showed was $53,000 at that time, was year-to-date. It is true that, and then any invoices that he's had since then has been presented on a monthly basis, the dollar amounts for those.
Chair
You
Sella.
want the dollar amount, you want the invoice, actual invoices?
Yes. I have been asking since April for the legal services invoices that I have not yet had an opportunity to review. And particularly, we've been asking since the advent of the Michael V. Nixon bill for the Phillips Law bill invoice on the other side, which is going to demonstrate the interaction between those two attorneys. So that is very much a timely issue, and I just don't understand why the information is being withheld.
As Commissioner Holloway knows, is that in her request for those invoices, many of them have been redacted. She has asked for unredacted invoices, many of which involve issues that she is a litigant in. It would be inappropriate for her to provide full invoices with that material contained therein. We have provided her, or offered access to those items other than the ones that she is involved in litigation on, and she's yet to come and retrieve those.
Dr. Soa?
Yes?
These bills from Phillips need to be presented the same way that Mr. Nixon presented his bill, which is a standard format, a standard methodology in which attorneys take and express in simple written language, although some of it's coded. It's very easy to understand what they have been doing and what is the basis for their bill. Now, if there is something that Commissioner Holloway believes that should not become part of public record, she can say so right now. Otherwise, there isn't anything, as far as I understand, that Mr. Phillips can write, can think about this evening, or has written in the past in the form of a bill, a brief, notes on a cocktail napkin, that Commissioner Holloway does not want to have public. Excuse me for raising my voice, but this issue has gone on enough. The ratepayers have paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to this person. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I'm sure it'll add up to over $1 million. They need to take and produce unredacted bills from this attorney. Here it is this evening. He wants $8 grand a month. For what? I urge you, Dr. Soa, to take and go forward on the side of the ratepayer and have those documents produced unredacted, including any and everything that's mentioned about myself or Commissioner Holloway.
We'll go forward and have a legal opinion about what can be redacted and what can't, or what should not be redacted.
If I may, Chair Soa, relative to the legal services invoices for Phillips Law, during the process of determining who should be a commissioner on this board of commissioners, the statement that was given to the board by Mr. Nixon was that he was retained because Mr. Phillips was not available to Mr. Moore. According to the documentation that I sent to the board, and I've requested an executive session on the subject, but have so far received no response, it does appear that the payment to Mr. Nixon was inappropriate. And so the invoices from Phillips Law are a major part of that. If it is Mr. Moore's opinion that there is anything in there that should be secret from any member of this board on that particular invoice, I would invite him to explain that. But this is it's a serious issue. And Mr. Moore, in particular, because his payment is the subject of the inquiry, has an extreme conflict of interest, as does Mr. Phillips, as does Mr. Nixon. So I don't know, I mean, what is it that makes all that secret? We already know from Mr. Nixon that Mr. Moore, Mr. Phillips, Mr. Nixon, Mr. Madpour all met. Mr. Moore, Mr. Phillips, Mr. Nixon met. Mr. Nixon already told us all of that. The court, in its judgment, an order which has finally been issued, dismisses Mr. Nixon's motion, declares it moot, granted, and they granted the motion of the county commissioners. So this, this is $27,000+ of ratepayer money, maybe more, plus the money that's been paid to Mr. Phillips. And we have a right as a board to see where that money went. It's that uncomplicated. This has nothing to do with redaction or non-redaction. Thank you.
Well, as Mr. Moore stated, those invoices that are ready, if you'll come in and you'll.
No, what Mr. Moore said to me was if I pay $200, I can get copies of the redacted invoices. Tonight, I'm only talking about Mr. Phillips' invoices related to that time period. And there's, and you know, they're public documents. And in fact, Mr. Phillips, before he became so, gave the board an email stating that the invoices are public documents, can't even be delivered in executive session. So if Mr. Phillips has a different legal opinion now, I'd be very interested to see what he bases that opinion upon. I'm going to get across.
A comment, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
We're sitting here arguing about a bill that has been paid of $27,000, and it was paid because 2 members of this board can't count to 3. Had they counted to 3, they would have sat back and waited for the county board of commissioners to do their job and appoint people to this board, and we wouldn't be having a discussion about $27,000. The fact is that they failed to follow their own board policy, which clearly states that a quorum is 3 members. Interesting to me that one of the members of this board was instrumental in writing that same policy and still didn't follow it, let alone what state law says. The attorney represented the interests of this district. The court made it very clear that his position and Mr. Madcor's positions were appropriate in the appointment of us to this board, and that the actions taken, including the attempted dismissal of the general manager and the attempted dismissal of the counsel for this district, were inappropriate, and they essentially were moved. The attorneys have indicated that there's some aspects of this issue that, because you are on the other side of this issue, remain and shall remain redacted. And on advice of counsel, I intend to continue to support that position until counsel changes its advice. My own attorney has reviewed a lot of it, and his position is quite the same. There are things that should remain redacted when people are on the other side. Again, had you simply counted to 3, we wouldn't be having this discussion. As far as hiding behind the ratepayers, personally, I'm sick and tired of hearing it. Had you not engaged in spurious...
Point of order.
I have the floor.
That doesn't matter in a point of order. It is inappropriate to make a personal attack on a board member meeting. I would ask Chair Sola to restrain you.
I don't accept the point of order.
Okay, how about it?
Had you not engaged in lawsuits constantly since you've been on this board, almost since you've been on this board, and attacked the general manager and staff, as you have repeatedly done, we wouldn't have spent at least documented $200,000 on legal fees. We would not have lost insurance coverage that's costing the ratepayer an additional $81,000 this year, and will cost the ratepayers an additional $98,000 next year. Instead of attacking staff, constantly looking for, going on a witch hunt and looking for something to be wrong somewhere because of something that happened in 2007 before anybody was here, you should be working through the general manager and his staff to get the job done instead of working around them. We need to stop going over this ancient history. You were the one who wanted this general manager hired. You brought him forward. You got him hired. You offer him a $30,000 bonus after his first year because he saved this district $1 million the first year and $850-some thousand the second year. Then when he told you to bring back documents that you had no business taking, you apparently decided that he couldn't be trusted. It needs to, whatever all that history was, it needs to stop. It needs to go away, as do the lawsuits, so that we can get on about the business of taking care of this district and its ratepayers. And your lawsuits are the reason that it's costing people money. It's that simple.
Second?
Chair
So-
Sala, if I may.
The other point of order, if I may raise it, sir, is that it's actually out of order to be discussing this at this point in time. You asked for something to be removed from the consent agenda. It's been acceded to that it can be removed from the consent agenda, and I would call the question on that motion.
That
All
doesn't
those
work
in fa-
procedurally either. Sorry, Chair Sala. I do feel that I am entitled to respond to Mr. Henderson's attack.
Well, there's a point at the commissioner's comment section where you
So you
certainly
can
could do
attack
so.
anytime you like, and I have to wait till it's on the agenda.
I waited for you guys to have your say, and I responded to it. Now I think we should move on.
If I may, Chair
All
Sala.
those in favor of the agenda as amended, signify by saying aye.
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 Abstain.
We'll now move on to action items. We'll ask for a motion.
I would move that the contract amendment for legal services be approved as modified.
Second?
In discussion?
Yes.
Yes.
First of all, the board did not instruct that a modified Phillips contract be returned to the board. The board discussed the possibility of placing the attorney on retainer. I had submitted as an agenda request and a discussion on the process and how we should go about that. Second, the information that is provided here relative to, quote, average salaries, et cetera, is not applicable to this situation. I do understand that Mr. Phillips has effectively been a full-time participant at Clackamas River Water. I don't think that that has been a good idea. It is inappropriate to be basing his or anyone's retainer on an amount which would ordinarily apply to a full-time attorney. The way this contract is structured, and I have to assume Attorney Humberston here was involved in drafting it, since it's his agenda item.
It's all of our agenda items.
All right, well, yeah, his name is on it as the staff member. And I wasn't even aware he was on CRW staff. I guess that's changed as well. However, the point is, the way this contract is structured, we would be paying the attorney the equivalent of an annual salary for any of these other entities, plus, in addition, that attorney would be being paid for work on any issues that are currently outstanding. That would include Beaver Creek, where we've already, through him, distributed over $120,000. And I think the construct of it is completely inappropriate. I think that the board needs to sit as a board and discuss how the board wants to approach it. I believe that we should go out for proposals. I can't believe that it would cost us anywhere near this much. And I would have to say that after that $120,000 on Beaver Creek, we still don't have a resolution. There are numerous other issues where this has been going on forever and we just never get them resolved. So I certainly am not satisfied with Mr. Phillips' performance as an attorney. So I don't like I don't think that the contract is structured appropriately for the benefit of ratepayers. I don't think that the party of the contract is competent legal counsel, and I intend to vote against the motion.
Thank you, additional comments.
If we're looking into this contract, which we are, the savings will be considerable, at least $10,000 a year, at least. And it provides for better controls of what there is in existence now in the current contract. And plus, it gives the board oversight via the president of the board. You will have the final say on this thing, on anything. And so that what you're saying, Ms. Holloway, is that you're challenging the act? Is that what you're saying?
I'm sorry, I don't quite understand your question. If I may discuss this with Mr. Coleman.
What's the question? What's to not understand? Savings of
I
$10,000 over previous actions.
More like 60.
60,000, excuse me. And a better control on the contract, on the services.
Well,
So you're saying that that isn't something you want? We're talking about saving, you referred to saving the ratepayers some money here. That's what we're doing. We would be saving the ratepayers $60,000 a year. You're talking about some $120,000 spent for the Beaver Creek telephone situations. That occurred on your watch. That's one of the things that we're trying to correct.
if I may.
Thank you. Just a minute, let me make a statement. As a policy of the president, I have instituted a policy by which anytime a lawyer is being used, they have to run it by me. And this resolution gives me additional power to make sure that I completely control any legal action that we have. And so we are moving forward to try to keep our legal costs down. And that won't allow staff to use our lawyer without my permission. And that's what we're interested in doing. Mr. Grafton.
Could you cite page and paragraph in this revised legal services contract where it states that, Dr. Soul, please? Sorry, I asked Dr. Soul.
I'll have Ken read that off.
Under Section 2, Paragraph 2, task orders, and subsection 2, work assignment, with respect to general counsel work assignments, the general manager shall advise the CRW board president on any matters that are identified to be outside the scope of work covered by the retainer fee stated in this contract modification, including any subcontracted work discussed under the subparagraph 1.2 above. If the board president deems it necessary, the board president may choose to submit such matters to the entire board for approval. Otherwise, the board president and the general manager may authorize such subcontracted services unless such services exceed the general manager's contracting authority. So what this ends up doing is getting a better handle via the board, and particularly the president of the board, on our legal costs, and it should reduce our immediate costs by about $62,000, because last year I believe they totaled around $160,000 just with Phillips, and this would come in at $98,000 if we do it for a full year. If we do it for half a year, obviously it would cut that in half.
Commissioner Holloway.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I know it's not common practice around here, but it would be very nice if you could provide background for the numbers that you're throwing around. Second, I think that the appropriate, first of all, I am adamantly opposed to retaining Mr. Phillips. Let me just start there.
So you made that one.
Second, I believe that the, yes, Mr. Cohen?
Go ahead. I didn't say anything.
I believe that this actually flies in the face of the current construct of board policy. I would suggest that this has been done hastily, that it needs more thought, that if you approve it now, you are putting together, or putting in force a contract that is contrary to board policy. And while I have the utmost respect for Dr. Soa, and I absolutely believe that under his restraints, things would be restrained. However, Dr. Soa happens to be the board president right now, and there is no telling who would be the board president going forward. And in general, because of the wording of this contract, it doesn't achieve what you want to achieve. It does not achieve a guaranteed cap on legal cost. It leaves open all of the work that is out there currently. It leaves open anything that is outside. So I don't see that it achieves the stated goal as well as having all the other elements.
You're absolutely right, it doesn't. Page 3, last paragraph says payment. They'll not only get his $8,000 a month, plus they'll get $250 an hour.
That's incorrect, sir. My understanding is that the $8,000 a month is broken down into $250 an hour increments. So if you ask him something or deal with him on something under the auspices of that $8,000 retainer, and he does 2 hours worth of work, then you've spent $500 of your $8,000.
You better reread it again, guy, because that's not what it says.
It doesn't say that at all.
Well, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, if I may, I think you have to read the whole sentence. And what it says, the district agrees to pay legal counsel's fees relating to the work under this contract modification at the rate of $8,000 per month, plus any work excluded from the retainer agreement. So if you and I were to decide that there was additional work that came under the exclusion clause of this contract, that would be at the rate of $250.
I believe everyone's had their chance to comment. We now have public comment. We have a couple of people signed up. Barbara, did you want to comment on this?
Barbara Kemper, ratepayer. I was not quite clear about what general, the category of general meant. There were several categories of legal expenses in the contract, one of which was general. And I think that includes engineering, but I'm not sure.
Does everybody understand the question?
Good question.
I need to hear it again.
I'm trying to find out what
Could
it
you
is.
restate the question again?
Thank you.
Pardon?
It's on 204 at the bottom.
You know, there were several categories that were given in general.
Do you understand what?
Yes.
Do you understand what I was
Oh,
talking about?
yes.
On page 1, under 1.2,
1.2. Okay, under categories of
it
general.
says, legal counsel shall provide general counsel advice on matters billed under the categories of general employment, comma, employment, real estate, and water rights is what general means.
Beg your pardon?
General counsel, under categories of general, it would include advice on employment law, on real estate issues, and water rights, is what the word general means.
I read it
That's
as
not what it says.
those were 4 categories.
There are 4 separate areas
That
of law.
one category was general, one was employment, one was real estate, one was water and water rights.
Look at page 2 of 4.
Yeah. It's day-to-day legal advice, general, and then it also includes the employment, real estate, and water rights.
So it is in fact 4 categories?
Right.
Yeah, okay. It sounded like if you were saying that general
Oh,
was
no,
those
I'm sorry.
3.
I apologize.
And by the way, I think I understand this better now. I stand corrected on the way I interpreted the 250,000. Thank you.
And then there are specific exclusions which are contained on the following pages.
But our engineering
That would be
Legal is
general
included in-
legal advice.
in there, in this area, under the general. Okay, that was my concern there. And then I guess the comments I was going to make were related actually to your earlier discussion, which wasn't about this, and so I probably should not make those comments here. Okay, thank you.
We have Cindy, wants to talk about this.
Cindy Lewis, Wolfram Repair. I have looked for a comment in here about the balance of the retainer fee at the end of each month, and I didn't see it. Would the balance, if you had not used the entire retainer fee, go forward to the next month's retainer fee? Or is it just to be taken as payment for services rendered?
Given that my interpretation on the $250 was incorrect, and I stand corrected again, thank you. It's $8,000 a month to provide those services in those 4 arenas.
So we basically then reduced Mr. Phillips' overall salary for those services, and then we have placed ourselves in a position to pay him a hourly fee for services outside of those 4 services, which would put the board on notice to watch how they put other services in front of Mr. Phillips.
Yeah, the contract actually is much more controlling, if you will, of legal services than the current board policy.
So the word retainer would be incorrect, or is a monthly payment of $8,000? Because it's my understanding that a retainer is there so that services are available to you, and those services would come from the retainer,
In those 4 categories.
in those 4 categories. So if you didn't use those services in that year, those amount of services in that month, rather, would the retainer go forward to the next month towards payment of the next month's retainer? I.e., if there was $1,000 left at the end of the month on the retainer, would it go forward to pay towards the $8,000 retainer for the next month, so that we would only have cash outflow of $7,000?
No, because,
Then shouldn't we use a payment terminology instead of retainer terminology, that we pay him $8,000 a month for those 4 areas of service? Because a retainer says that it's being held to be used towards services, not used as payment for services.
Excuse me.
I think,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, couple of things about, the word retainer means that that person is being retained, and for that, you're paying them a fixed amount of money. It is the board's intent that over time, we would reduce that amount even more. That's why we used a 6-month period, or in this case, 5 months period of time. And we intend to look at that dollar amount in the future. What the present contract that we have is an open-ended contract, as you know. And we know what that has gotten us in terms of cost and so forth. This
I
tightens.
think to answer your question, it still requires Mr. Phillips to provide us with invoices of how he spends the money.
With hours.
Spends our money, yes.
Okay,
We've
thank-
already tried that, it
And
doesn't
then-
work, they're redacted.
And I just wanted to bring to the table the comment that the previous board's actions of approving redacted copies to be prepared when it regarded other actions taken by by any member of this board, whether it be Ms. Holloway or Mr. Humbertson or yourself, sir, that those actions would be redacted. And that was an action that was voted on by this board, I believe in 2011, maybe it might have been 2010. And I think that having some oversight by the president, no matter who the president is, currently you, is a good way to go for the board. They have someone to complain to if they feel something is wrong then, that there's a person to go to on the board to take those complaints to, and that they then don't have to bother several members on the staff or anything else. They can just go to the president and let the president deal with that. So in that regard, I wholly support this, and thank you for taking a look at this legal services. However, I would encourage this board, when Mr. Phillips, and I'm sure that this is possibly on your mind right now, but as you put this in play, that you put out feelers or ask for submissions by other attorneys so that you have choices to be made at the end of Mr. Phillips' contract, which I believe ends in the end of June this year. And for looking it over, if it doesn't, Ms. Holloway shaking her head at me, so maybe it does not, but perhaps it would give you a time to set a date to do that by, if it is the end of this year, so that you can take a look and see if there is a different way to save money through hiring of another attorney. But I think doing it right now in a hurry-carry manner is not the way to do it. So I appreciate this steadfast manner of doing it. Thank you.
Any more comments? If not, then we'll vote on the motion. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
No.
No,
$96,000, Chair Sauer, $96,000.
We will enter that as the motion passes. We're going on now to number 4. Can we have a motion on that?
I move to approve resolution number 06-2013, approving annexation of Johnson City territory into the jurisdictional boundaries of Clackamas River water tax lots 00100, 00101, 00102, 00103, and 00104, assessors map number 22E08BD.
Second.
Discussion. Yes.
I have to say, I am relieved that this board is finally taking action on an issue that has concerned me for quite some time. That issue being that Johnson City, not being within the CRW service district, would potentially have faced a cut-off of water had Clackamas River Water needed it for its in-district domestic users. And so I everyone poo-pooed that there was any need to deal with this in any way. And I am just happy to see that the cautions that I issued have resulted in a resolution.
Thank you. Yes?
This document holds you out liable, Dr. Soa. I mean, how much is this going to cost ratepayers? What's the status of the infrastructure, the utilities to the property? It's my understanding a period of time ago, the ratepayers, the CRW paid $32,000 for a valve that we were never reimbursed for. There needs to be an accounting of the property, the utilities as they exist currently, and search any archives that we have, and I'm sure we have plenty of them, in regards to what we have invested in this property to provide water, whether it was regular or irregular in the past, before we start signing anything and committing, as you're going to sign when you sign here, to pay for things. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you. We now have public comment. I believe Cindy is the only one that, we have no one from the public? Yes.
Brian Johnson. So I guess I'm gonna have to dig up Grafton our check that we paid Clackamas Water for the valve. And you're not taking care of the infrastructure. You're only going to the meter. No different than an apartment complex across the street or Precision Gas Sports or anywhere else.
Sounds like that answers the question.
It is.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Tricia, we don't have Mr. George here. I actually hadn't even thought of the issue that Commissioner Sterling raised. And I do believe that now we are going to a master meter, that if that arrangement changes within Johnson City, that we likely legally then would be responsible for providing the infrastructure to reach each of those residences.
Thank you. Any more comments? If not, we'll have a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No?
No.
We'll go on to number 5.
Yes,
Do we have a motion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I would like to move to nominate Mr. Kerr, Mr. McNeil, and Ms. Kemper to the Budget Committee.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion?
I would offer an alternative motion of Mr. Kerr, Ms. Kemper, and Mr. Mitchell.
Second.
Or sorry, I'm sorry. To take that back for a second, I don't mean Mr. Kerr. I mean Ms. Kemper, Mr. Mitchell, and
McNeil?
Mr. McNeil. So, are you going to amend your second?
Yes, I'm amending my second.
The motion's been made. Yes.
I have a parliamentary question, Mr. Chairman. We already had a motion and second on the floor. I don't think you can put a second motion and a second on the floor. So, do we have a parliamentary answer to that question?
I think you have to dispense with one before you can entertain the second.
That's what I thought. So, basically, the motion that's on the floor is the motion for Mr. Kerr, Mr. McNeil, and Ms. Kemper. And
I believe what they meant to say was the amend the motion.
that's what they're asking, then,
That is correct. So I would like then to suggest an
Motion
amendment.
and second.
okay, and if that's what they meant, then as the mover of the motion, I reject. Does the second reject or accept?
Reject.
Thank you.
Yes.
You you do what?
You reject.
Reject the
Okay.
amendment.
So the original motion stands.
I gotta leave. I have to call you later.
We'll now have a public comment on this motion. Got a motion and amendment. And I guess Cindy's the only one that signed up.
Mr. Chair, I agree that the maker of the motion should be able to reject that amendment's made, but I believe the proper parliamentary procedure would be for there to be a vote on the required amendment to that motion, and have it, if they don't want it, then to be rejected. I would suggest that, we take a look at the three people that were first proposed strongly, and so I would encourage this board to vote nay on the amended proposal because of the redirection of the people involved. Mr. Kerr, who has a accounting background, should be allowed to another stand on this board, on this budget committee. He's been very helpful for the last 3 years and will be a very valuable budget member again. And of course, having Ms. Kemper on with her recent board experience would be helpful as well. That would leave David McNeil and Mr. Mitchell both on as a third person, in my opinion, to select a third party. And looking at the backgrounds of both, I have only one question on one of them. I have on Mr. Mitchell's resume, there was something listed as a TCO, and I realize Mr. Mitchell served as the treasurer for the board for a year, I believe it was, maybe 2. I'm not sure, but I'm not sure what the TCO is, and I'd ask for a response of what that stood for. And I taking a look at Mr. McNeil's background. He looks like he has an excellent background that might be very valuable and new input for this board, so I would also recommend that person for that. But if I could get some information about a TCO, it might be helpful as you consider.
Thank you. Anyone else in the public? If not, we'll vote on the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment, say aye. All those opposed, say
Oh, I'm sorry, I'll withdraw the amendment, it's a waste of time. Let's save our breath for other issues.
Well, I'd like to make a comment. Is there any time for discussion or not, Doctor?
we had that, but we can.
No, it's okay, that's fine, we can move on. History speaks for itself, it's already been written down.
Did you wish to withdraw your second to the
Sure.
amendment?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll then vote on the motion as proposed. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, say no.
No?
No.
We'll now go on to number 6, about suspending board policy and amending board policy.
I move that the board adopt resolution 082013, suspending board policy 1.8K and amending board policy 6.2 as presented. A second.
Second.
You can have a motion made and seconded, we'll have a discussion.
Yes.
Ms. Hall.
Couple things. First of all, since this originated with Secretary Humberston, I would like an explanation of what he intends to accomplish with it.
Well, given the commission form of government that we have with the general manager, our board policies as well as the contract with our general manager make it very clear that the board should, in terms of operational issues, contracts, et cetera, operate through our general manager. Unfortunately, we have had problems where board members have contacted outside agencies, that we have contractual relationship with them, and that those relationships, shall we say, have been disturbed as a result of those outside contacts. Sometimes that can result in litigation that costs the district and the board money and other headaches. The purpose of the policy is to make it clear that if we want information as board members regarding, let's say, our insurance, for example, we contact the general manager and we ask the general manager to get us the information that we need and operate through our management team instead of around our management team. That is the intention. If board members choose to act outside the policy, then they act on their own without the protections of either the insurance or the district. We have a responsibility as a board to operate as a group and take votes as a group and not act outside that construct.
I have a question proposed to me. The suspension of board policy is for one time only?
Yes, sir. The purpose of this, since this is a board governance issue and not a ratepayer issue, I made this recommendation so that we could take action and move on. If it were a ratepayer issue where there was a cost incurred by ratepayers, then I would not recommend suspending policy. But since it's our governance and our behavior that we are looking at, I think it's appropriate to suspend 2 readings, move to a single reading and discussion, and then take a vote.
Commissioner Holloway.
Yeah, I would suggest that since board policy is in fact the charter of Clackamas River Water, it is the ultimate governing document aside from the ORSs that establish